everyone, my name is Aliza Siddiqui. I am a first-year medical student at the Chicago Medical School at Rosalind Franklin University. Thank you so much for having me virtually here today. I'm happy to talk to you guys about what M1 year looks like during COVID-19 and all the changes that have come because of COVID. So I'll just share my screen with you guys and hopefully we can get started. So looking into what a normal day looks like, quote unquote normal, because nothing is normal these days. So I'll typically wake up around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and we'll just preview my notes for the day or do whatever review Anki cards that I need to be doing for the day. And then starting at 8 o'clock, we usually have lectures. So from 8 to 12, we'll have our virtual anatomy or scientific foundations of medicine or hematology, immunology lectures, whatever we have scheduled for the day. And then about 12 o'clock, we'll have a break for lunch. And during that time, that's usually when we meet with our different organizations that we're a part of. And then after that, we resume back to lectures. It can usually go till 3, till 5, depending on the day, depending on what we have scheduled. So it is variable, but it is typical to have class till later in the day. And then about once per week, we have a virtual telehealth visit with a virtual patient, a mock patient, that we can practice taking histories. And working with difficult patients specifically is what we've been working on this past couple of weeks. And about once a week, we go in person to practice our physical exams on each other. So this means that we do have to get tested about once a week. So we do have a clinic close by or just next door where we can get tested. We have the saliva test right now, so that's good. We don't get our brains poked anymore. But I just attached some pictures about what our days look like. So on the far left is me and my roommate. We don't have cadavers right now because everything is online, as I said. So we practice drawing all the arteries and veins and nerves on ourselves instead of having those cadavers to visualize them on. So that was helpful for the upper extremity unit, as we can see in the photo. We were thriving at the time. I also attached a photo of the app that we're using in order to learn anatomy. It's called Complete Anatomy, which again, it's not the same as having a cadaver, but it is good visualization of a 3D visual of where everything needs to be. And the last photo I just have attached is a BioLucida slide. So for our foundations class and our immunology, hematology class, we talk about different histology slides and what things should look like in the cells under the microscope. So for this one, it's just a thick collagen surrounding the blue stars that are there. They're small. I don't know if you can see them, but it's just the skin of an axilla, I think, for this one. And yeah, it's nothing too crazy, but got some practice while we're all online. But one thing that we have been a huge part of during this time that's really only come up because of COVID-19 is this coalition of medical students getting together to make this organization called Get Me PPE Chicago. It's medical students all around the Chicagoland area, including UIC, Rush, Pritzker School of Medicine at UChicago, Feinberg at Northwestern, and UIC School of Medicine. So many students from all around the Chicagoland area coming together for one cause to get PPE to where it's needed most, because right now, as you all know, PPE is so important to preventing the spread of this virus and keeping our people healthy. So at the height of the pandemic, this organization started initially to get PPE from the community into the hospitals where it was most needed. But as the pandemic shifted, so did our goals. So as hospitals got back into supply chains, nursing homes were then the ones who were struggling in order to keep the virus tame. So then that became our biggest priority. And as we're shifting into the colder months again, expecting that second and third wave, we are shifting our goals towards homeless shelters as they are the most at risk at the time. The city of Chicago has allocated about $0 of funding to PPE for these homeless shelters. So it's definitely something that we're looking into in order to make sure that there's not an outbreak in any of these shelters. We've currently made contact with about 57 of the 77 shelters in Chicago and have provided donations to about a third of them. And the biggest need right now is definitely disinfectant and masks. Masks are so important to keeping this virus at bay. And it's been so vital for us to get these supplies out there for these people. So it's been an incredible organization to be a part of. I'm so thankful to be a part of it in order to meet people and people who are really involved in getting this into this goal. And if you want more information about what we're doing, there's our website, getmeppchicago.org. And if you know of a place that's in need, you can feel free to request PPE from us, we'd be glad to help. So that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, you can email me. I put my email at the bottom. Thank you so much again for having me, and have a great day.
I'm Amna Hashmi, and I'm so pleased to be presenting at the COVID-19 International Youth Conference of 2020. I'll be speaking about COVID-19 and food insecurity as the CTO of Livelihood. So for a little bit more about me, I'm Amna Hashmi. I'm an MS MBA candidate at Harvard Business School and Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. So let's dive into food insecurity. 130 million additional people could face acute food insecurity by the end of 2020, on top of the 135 million people who were already acutely food insecure before the crisis. This is because of income and remittance losses. Zooming in a little bit more into Boston, where I live, 1 in 8 people in Eastern Massachusetts is expected to experience food insecurity in 2020 as a result of the impact of COVID-19. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, 1 in 13 people were food insecure in the region. This represents a 59% increase. When we saw all of this happening around us, a few friends and I started brainstorming. We knew that demand for hunger relief services was surging, but food pantries were not modeled to operate this way. They always assumed that those in need would come to them. We were inspired by the work of Invisible Hands, a nonprofit in New York that was conducting contactless deliveries via volunteers. But speaking to folks on the inside of Invisible Hands, they couldn't scale because they assigned volunteers to deliveries via Google Sheets. It was an enormous amount of manual work. So we thought, how can we automate that assignment? So we came up with Livelihood. I actually love this slide because you can see the progression from wireframes and mock-ups to the logo to someone making the delivery. So our process is easy. 1, direct service providers schedule a delivery. They'll enter the person in need's details, their phone, their address, and any other additional instructions. So, any specific hours that the food has to be picked up. We, Livelihood, find a volunteer through our automated matching algorithm, and this texts nearby volunteers in tranches until a volunteer accepts. Lastly, the volunteer will deliver the essential items by connecting with a direct service provider or the requester, and they follow the instructions and safely help a person in need. So let's do a quick demo of the product. So let's first look at the view of a volunteer. So I'm going to sign up to be a volunteer here. And I'll put in an email address. Let me put in the address of Harvard Business School. And I can get around. I only speak English. I'll do a delivery anytime. And of course, given that we are trying to match low-risk people with high-risk people, we require that our volunteers be at least 18, be healthy, not have any comorbidities, not have any symptoms, have not been exposed to anyone, and have not traveled, so that we can make this process as safe as possible. And then secondly, we describe the delivery protocol precautions pretty in depth. You certify that you've read it, and you acknowledge that there are risks inherent to any kind of contactless delivery. So now I've completed my profile. It's great, and I'll actually be receiving a text message from Livelihood as well. Here we are. Here it is. It says, "Welcome to Team Livelihood. I will text you when someone nearby needs your help. If you ever need assistance, you can reach us here." All right, so now let's look at the perspective of a direct service provider. So I'm going to log in as a partner. And I actually have no deliveries yet. So I will schedule a delivery. And I'll have this deliver for tomorrow. And the requester name is Needs Help, and they will live pretty close by to Harvard Business School. Please come between the hours of 2 and 6 p.m. All right, so we've added this delivery. So right now we can see that delivery is in request submitted status. It will soon be in a request distributed status once the backend matching algorithm processes that the request has come in and sort of sorts through who's the closest volunteer who can help. Okay, great. Let's check the status. It looks like the request has been distributed. All right, let's check my messages. And incredible, Livelihood needs help. So this is sort of the name. Needs help getting groceries. Can you make a delivery by Wednesday at 8 p.m.? And then I can click on this link. I get some more information about how far it is. Fortunately, it's very close to me. I'll accept the request, and I'll finally get another message to permanently have those details available to me, and I can make a difference. All right, let's go back to the presentation. So this was a really meaningful project for me to work on during COVID with my friends, and it comes through in testimonials like this. One of the people we helped said, "I've been completely isolated since, well, even prior to COVID. I'm pretty much isolated in general, so I don't have COVID. I have several medical conditions, and as a result, I'm on disability. My conditions leave me in chronic pain with chronic fatigue and spend my time in bed or on the couch on a heating bed, even as I write this. Thank you so much for your consideration." And I think as young people, it can be easy to forget how many people live in isolation and live on disability. And for you to be able to leverage your time and youth to someone like that can really make a huge difference in their day, their week, and in their life. So a few lessons as I've been doing Livelihood for the past several months during the pandemic. I think lesson one, meet your users where they are. We had assumed that requesters would actually be able to make their own requests through our web app or mobile app. But these stakeholders are not as digitally connected as we initially assumed. And so it really became important for us to partner with food pantries, churches, and the like to be able to then leverage their relationships with these people in need so that we could help them. And then sort of similarly, I think lesson two is be creative about the partnerships that you can explore. Helping Hands, which is a similar organization to Livelihood and a good friend, they actually partnered with Uber's 10 million free rides program to jumpstart their deliveries, which was great because anytime someone needed a food delivery, they could actually leverage an Uber driver who was pretty available and working to make this happen. So I thought that was a very creative partnership and just something to mention. So how can you get involved? I think there are three main ways. First, be a leader. You can become a Livelihood or Helping Hands captain for your community. You can email livelihood.io@gmail.com or community@helpinghands.community. And if you don't have a local initiative, start your own. Two, you can volunteer. So you can sign up to be a volunteer at www.livelihood.io and/or Helping Hands the community, and research hunger relief agencies in your community, whether that's in the US, we have Project Bread, Feeding America, and donate your time or money. Three, advocate. Send a message to your local representatives to support hunger relief programs in their budgets. For example, in the US, we need to urge our senators and representatives to increase household SNAP benefits, that's the food stamp program, in the next COVID-19 related legislation. Thank you so much for listening. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm available on Twitter at Amna_Hashmi or on email at amnahashmi130@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and best wishes to everyone. Stay safe.
everybody. My name is Erin Fratella, and I'm honored to be speaking with you today about adolescent mental health during a time of COVID. I am a high school teacher. I teach AP Psychology at Hinsdale Central High School in Hinsdale, Illinois. This is my 22nd year teaching, although it feels like a first-year teacher this year. And I have an MA and a BA from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor in teaching psychology. So I'm excited to be able to share some of my observations with you today. The way that our school has approached teaching this year is we began the year remotely with all kids at home, teaching purely online over Zoom or Canvas conferences, using all kinds of different technologies. We are one-to-one, and all kids at home have Chromebooks. Starting in October, we decided to go to a hybrid model, which we're continuing with right now, which means that each week 25% of students are in the building at one time, and 75% of students are learning at home. However, this is all happening synchronously. So it's not separate lessons. Kids are being taught the same way at the same time, whether they are in school or out of school. So I've seen kids at home, and I've seen them coming into school. At this point, we've seen all kids at some point in school. And so I wanted to share with you a couple of observations, some differences that I've seen this year in my students versus the previous 21 years of what I have seen. So the first thing that I've noticed is that this is true for myself as well as for my students. There is no break from technology or school. Everything seems to be happening 24 hours a day. When you're talking to people, how you're talking to people, everything seems to be very like rolling and collective. There is no school is over. It's time for me to do something else. And I think people are spending more time on technology, but we're also just not taking a break from it. Whenever you have your device, you feel like you should be at school. And so people aren't feeling like there's a break. Probably the biggest thing that I've noticed and the biggest thing that I'm sad about this year is that it's very difficult to build relationships with students or teachers while you are having class online. And I have gotten so many emails from students saying, this isn't who I am. I'm such a good student. I'm so unmotivated. This is difficult for me. My internet is going out. I'm, helping my mom watch my little brother. And students are really struggling with their real self versus their self right now during COVID. And I think that little bit of an identity shift is causing people a lot of anxiety. Similarly, low motivation. I think everybody, when you're stuck at home and there's no break. Like I said, people are in their bedrooms all day long. I just see a lot of low motivation. People don't really want to do the work. It's not as exciting. Yet when they're in school and it is their week to be in school, the kids are really excited and they're happy to be here. They're happy to see their teachers. They're happy to have a change of scenery. But the kids at home, it's very difficult a lot of times to find the motivation to get the work done. And then probably the biggest thing that I've seen is that even when kids are in school, there's no quote unquote normal interactions. The kids are divided up by alphabet. They are not here with their friends all of the time. There may only be 2 kids in a classroom at a time, depending on how it got broken up. People don't know what's okay and what's not okay. Can you drink water? Can you eat? Can you go to the bathroom? Are you allowed to sit here? Maybe they don't really know their teacher. They don't really know the classroom rules. Nothing is the way it was. Nothing is comfortable anymore for students or teachers. And so I think every action that we take in this environment it has to be thought about, right? It's very cognitive instead of being done on autopilot. And I think that just heightens stress levels. I think it causes decision fatigue when you don't know what's going on. And I just think it leads to the intensity of the situation that we are in at the moment. And if you just ask anybody, people are struggling, not just kids, but people in general are struggling with COVID-19. It's hard to be locked down. It's hard to not go out to eat. It's hard not to see your friends, go to plays, go to movie theaters, play sports. It's difficult. And so the CDC is reporting that 7 out of 10 adolescents do report that they are struggling with their health right now, mainly issues with depression and anxiety. But certainly kids with ADD and ADHD are also struggling to try to keep up in this remote environment. So this is a big deal. And I think that we need to, as a society, as a group of people, we need to realize that there is something that we can do. There are lots of things that we can do, and they may take effort and they may not be what you're used to. But thinking about integrating some of these changes that I'm going to present to you can have really big benefits. There's a lot of things proven out there that can be helpful. I just think we need to recognize what we personally need, and we need to implement maybe one of these small changes at a time. So here are my suggestions or strategies for students. So the number one thing I think that people are struggling with, and this is adults as well as students, is setting boundaries. And I think one way that a student can set a boundary is to have a specific space for school that's not your bedroom. And I know that that's difficult. Not everyone has maximum amount of space. I understand that. But even if you do it on your desk and not in your bed, or you have an area of the floor that you can set up with maybe like a beanbag or pillows or something, where I do my work here and then my fun happens over here, my relaxing happens over here. We need to separate sleeping and relaxing from school. I also think it's really, really important to set a boundary within your day for when you do school and when you don't think about school. You need to set a start time and an end time and a lunch time and a break time and a homework time, that there needs to be time in the day that, okay, it's time to do this. And creating a schedule that you maybe print out and put on your bulletin board or put on your refrigerator, it can make things seem much more normal. It's much healthier for your circadian rhythm and your sleep cycle. If you can do this, have a routine. But it's healthy for us mentally also to know what's coming and to know what time we need to do certain things. And similarly, you need to schedule fun in, right? You need to do things with your friends, even if it's over Zoom. You need to have a hobby, get a paint set, go for a walk, shop online. I don't know, do what you like to do. But you have to have time in your day where you actually do those things and take care of yourself also. The second thing I think that students should do is work to build relationships with your teachers. Teachers are missing this. This is the best part about teaching. The content is not the best part about teaching. It is the smiles and the cool interactions that you have with your kids and the small conversations. And I think if you go out of your way, even just with an email or something, it's going to pay big dividends. So I suggest to all of you to send an email to your teacher and tell them how you're doing, tell them how you're feeling, tell them something that you like about the class, ask them what you're doing well in the class, ask them what you're contributing, ask them just how they're doing, and they'll do the same for you. And usually when students do that for me, I suggest we set up a one-on-one Zoom call, and I always think these are going to last, 5 to 10 minutes. And they last about a half hour because we're just enjoying talking to each other. There's some normalcy in an interaction where it's just a teacher and a student. And I think both parties have really benefited from that. And if you can set up that relationship, you will feel better, your teacher will feel better. I think it just makes the whole situation much more comfortable. So reaching out, I just think that there's so much value in creating that relationship that you might be missing, whether it's for the class right now or whether it's to develop a relationship that might result in a letter of recommendation later in your high school years. You do need to create relationships with your teachers. And what you can do when you're creating these relationships is that you can get your needs met. You can tell them, I'm struggling, this isn't like me, I'm having trouble with this. Can you help me out? Can you give me an extra day? Can you maybe send me the link for this so it's easier for me to find? I have gotten actually great suggestions from students this year who've said, this is really difficult for me to do it this way. Could we do it this way? And I'm like, that is a great idea. Teachers don't know what they're doing right now either. This is all very new for us, and suggestions in a appropriate and polite way from students have been life-saving for me, and I think really benefited everyone else too. And then finally, I really suggest practicing self-care. As you saw in the previous slide, it is not selfish. It is absolutely essential. So the first thing that I suggest you do is set a sleep schedule and stick to it. I suggest that you go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time every day. Your body needs this. It needs to know what to expect so that it can maximize the time that you are sleeping at night. There are tons of health benefits to this, and it's really, really important that students who are trying to maximize their cognitive ability and their physical ability get sleep. So even if you're getting less sleep than you need, please do it in a routine way. I think also similarly, having a routine during the day is really, really important. If you can set up your day like you were at school, you get up, you shower, you get dressed, you eat breakfast, you go to your classes, you take a break for lunch, you do the things like you were, you end your day appropriately. That is really, really important for your body and your mind to know what's coming and not just constantly feel like you need to be working or worrying about working. There's a time for working, and it's just much, much easier. As I mentioned before, showering and getting dressed for school. It might seem silly, and every now and then it might be fun to, not do that. But on the regular, you really should be getting up, getting dressed, and getting your day set. You, again, need that mental differentiation between sleep and school and being lazy and school. Being lazy is good, sleeping is good, but we need to separate that from learning. Again, with the routine, eating regular meals, eating breakfast, eating a snack, eating lunch, eating a snack, and eating dinner. Those are really, really important things for fueling your mind and keeping you going all day. It's also going to break up your day and give you those little breaks. So try to not eat, in front of the computer or during your class. Stop and take a break and eat and enjoy your food. And that will, again, sort of separate real life from this sort of bizarre schooling experience that we're all having. You should do something you like every day. Find time in your day every day to do something you like. Call somebody different every day, like a grandparent or a cousin or something. Go for a walk, paint, draw, exercise. Do the things that you like a little bit every day. Listen to music. Treat yourself every day. Get outside. We have to get outside. We are spending so much time in front of screens. We all need vitamin D, especially in a time of COVID, to fight off that virus. We need fresh air. We need to see the scenery other than our bedrooms and our homes. So getting outside, even if it's just learning outside for a little bit or going for a walk, it's really helpful. And similarly, exercise, right? We need our immune systems to be full and healthy and ready to fight off any virus. And also, if we're going to be cognitively efficient while we're learning at school, exercise is essential to that. So even if it's just for 20 minutes, you can find great clips on YouTube. My son is 7 and he does these Go Noodles at home, and there are these little clips and they're silly and ridiculous and crazy and fun, and anybody can do them. So that is really, really important as well. So I just wanted to leave you with a few resources that I have found helpful. These are links, like it says, some tips for surviving e-learning, which colleges have put out, the latest on adolescent mental health research, just coping strategies every day for everyday life, but then also taking charge of your health. What can you do to make yourself feel better and be better? So thank you so much for listening to my talk. I hope you have a wonderful conference. I hope this has helped you. I wish you all happiness and energy and safety and health in this time. And I know that in the future, if this happens again, it will be you guys changing the world and making this better. And I couldn't be more hopeful. So thank you for all you do. Hang in there. And I hope you have a wonderful conference.
And my co-host today is Dr. Umar Farooq, who is an associate professor and associate chief medical officer at Hershey Medical Center, Penn State University. Welcome, Dr. Umar.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
And today our guest speaker is Dr. Aalamgeer Ibrahim. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist at Boston, Massachusetts. पता है कि for some months बच्चों के schools भी बंद हो गए हैं, उनकी सारी outdoor activities भी for most part suspend हो गई, at least in Pakistan. तो अभी वो सारा time indoors गुजार रहे हैं. तो आप उन बच्चों के पेरेंट्स को क्या एडवाइस करेंगे कि वो इन बच्चों की डेली रूटीन में क्या चीजें ऐड करें ताकि वो इसके जो मेंटल हेल्थ के जो इफेक्ट हैं इस कोविड-19 पैंडेमिक के उससे अपने बच्चों को मैक्सिमम बचा के रख सकें?
देखिए जी, ये तो मेरा स्पेशलिटी है बच्चों की मेंटल हेल्थ. आई थिंक बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है, पर इसमें मैं पहली चीज फिर कहूंगा कि बच्चों की मेंटल हेल्थ के लिए सबसे पहले आपने पेरेंट्स की मेंटल हेल्थ को का ख्याल रखना है. सो पेरेंट्स को ये मैसेज है कि अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ का ख्याल रखें. अगर आपको स्ट्रेस हो रहा है तो उसको फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आप उसको आइडेंटिफाई करने की कोशिश करें कि क्या हो रहा है, अब स्ट्रेस कैसे हो सकता है। आप फिर वही बात है, नींद नहीं आ रही आपको, डिफरेंट लोगों को, कुछ लोगों को महसूस होता है स्ट्रेस हो रहा है, नींद नहीं आती, चेस्ट पेन होती है, आप कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट के पास चले जाते हैं, होता वो मेंटल हेल्थ इशू है लेकिन वो कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट देख रहा होता है या इंटरनल मेडिसिन का स्पेशलिस्ट देख रहा होता है। एक एग्जाम्पल मैं अपनी वाइफ का दूंगा, एलर्जी हो रही थी, क्या थी मुझे ना गले में कुछ हो रहा है, मेरे ख्याल में मैं डॉक्टर के हूँ, ठीक है। तो असल में वो भी स्ट्रेस हो रहा था ना, वो भी एसेंशियल वर्कर्स में है तो उनको भी स्ट्रेस था कि मुझे एक्सपोजर ना हुआ हो तो मैं डॉक्टर से चेक करा लूं। सो आई थिंक पेरेंट्स को अपना जरूरी है। दूसरा, मैं फिर वही बात करूंगा कि बच्चों के केस में रूटीन्स, टाइम्स को फॉलो करना बहुत जरूरी है। सुबह एक टाइम पे उठें, रात को एक टाइम पे सो जाएं, जिससे कि गारंटी होगी कि आपकी नींद पूरी होगी। बच्चे जो है ना, अगर उनको भूख लग रही है या उनकी नींद नहीं पूरी हुई तो वो बहुत क्रैंकी हो जाते हैं, बहुत इरिटेबल हो जाते हैं। तो इससे पहले कि सोचना कि जी बच्चे को मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यू चल रहा है, आप बच्चे की फिजिकल नीड्स को इंश्योर करें कि वो पूरी हो रही है, ठीक है ना, एकदम से मेंटल हेल्थ नीड्स की तरफ ना जंप कर जाए। फिर दिन के वक्त उनका स्कूल चल रहा है, स्कूल बंद हो गए हैं, अब वो क्या करें। अब वो बच्चों को छोड़ ना दें कि वो पपीज की तरह आगे पीछे फिर रहे हैं, उनको बिठाएं, उनके साथ टाइम स्पेंड करें, उनको पढ़ाएं। ऑनलाइन रिसोर्सेज हैं, ये यहाँ पे हमारे सैन फ्रांसिस्को में एक बंगाली डिसेंट का एक है, खान एकेडमी के नाम से उन्होंने अपनी एक ऑनलाइन सर्विस की हुई जो कि फ्री है, बहुत इफेक्टिव है। तो मैंने सुना था उसका बहुत हुआ था, बट वो अब मैंने जाके उसको एक्चुअली एक्सप्लोर किया, वो बहुत यूजफुल रिसोर्स है। सो इस तरह की सोर्सेज गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे पाकिस्तान में भी डेवलप की जाएं और फिर उसको कम्युनिटीज में डिसेमिनेट किया जाए, वो एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज हो सकती है। और फिर बच्चों को ये ना दे दें कि जब ये फोन ले लो और देखते रहो यूट्यूब सारा दिन, या ये कर लो सारा दिन करते रहो। ये चीजें बहुत जरूरी हैं। और एक और चीज जो बहुत जरूरी है कि जिसके बारे में कि बच्चे बहुत वल्नरेबल ग्रुप भी हैं, तो इस केस में सारे घर में बंद हो गए हैं, काम नहीं कर रहे, इकोनॉमिक लॉस हो रहा है, डिफरेंट लेवल पे डिफरेंट लोगों की परेशानियां चल रही हैं, बच्चों का अब्यूज भी हो सकता है। और एक्चुअली कंसर्न है, एंड बाय सम मेजर्स 700% कह रहे हैं कि इस वक्त अब्यूज बढ़ गया है। तो अब किस हद तक की एक्यूरेट है, इट्स एन एस्टिमेट, इट्स नॉट 100% एक्यूरेट, लेकिन इट जस्ट गोज टू से कि एक रिस्क है बच्चों को अब्यूज होने का। तो फिजिकल डिसिप्लिनिंग जो है ना वो यूजफुल नहीं है, उसका एक अलग PTSD हो जाता है बच्चों को। तो इस केस में आई थिंक ये चीजें बहुत जरूरी है।
वो फैमिलीज जिनके अंदर बच्चे जो हैं वो डिसेबल चाइल्ड्स हैं या उनको न्यूरो डेवलपमेंटल डिसऑर्डर्स हैं, और फिलहाल उनका जो रूटीन की जो केयर थी या उनकी जो रूटीन की थेरेपीज चल रही थी वो सस्पेंड हुई हुई है, दे कैन नॉट मीट देयर थेरेपिस्ट। तो अब वो पेरेंट्स ने को वो सारा रोल जो है वो असीम करना पड़ रहा है। तो ऐसे जो पेरेंट्स हैं उनके लिए आपकी क्या एडवाइस होगी कि हाउ कैन दे इस रोल को वो किस तरह से एक्सेप्ट करें, पूरा करें, और इस सारी सिचुएशन से कैसे गुजरें?
देखिए, मुझे उन पेरेंट्स के साथ जो कि न्यूरो डेवलपमेंटली डिलेड बच्चों के साथ रह रहे होते हैं और बहुत हमदर्दी आती है। मैं एक बात हमेशा अपने पे, क्योंकि ये मेरा स्पेशलिस्ट मैं इस चीज़ का मैं स्पेशलिस्ट हूँ, मैं हमेशा जो बिहेवियरल मैनेजमेंट एंड न्यूरो डेवलपमेंटली डिलेड बच्चों की, मैं पेरेंट्स को एक बात हमेशा कहता हूँ, और फिर मैं यही कहूँगा कि अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ का ख्याल पेरेंट्स रखें, ठीक है, वो बहुत ज़रूरी है, बिकॉज डेवलपमेंटली डिलेड बच्चों का ख्याल रखना बहुत लेवल्स पे बहुत स्ट्रेसफुल होता है। मैं उनको ये कहता हूँ कि ये एक अल्लाह का ना इम्तिहान है तुम्हारे ऊपर इस दुनिया में, तुम यहीं से जानती हो इतना मुश्किल काम होता है इन बच्चों को देखना। मतलब मेरे हिसाब से कि मतलब कैंसर से डील करना ज़्यादा आसान है एज अपोज टू इन इस पर्टिकुलर सेगमेंट ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन के लिए। बहरहाल क्या कर सकते हैं वो, बात वहीं पे आ जाती है, रूटीन और स्ट्रक्चर। डेवलपमेंटली डिलेड बच्चों के लिए तो स्ट्रक्चर वो यहाँ तक कि आपने हर घंटे 2 घंटे का ना आपने स्केड्यूल लिख के लगाया होता है, जहां पे भी आप लगा सकते हैं, दीवारों पे, कमरों पे, फ्रिज के ऊपर, जहां जहां आप फिर रहे होते हैं। और उस स्केड्यूल को फॉलो करना बहुत जरूरी है। इतने बजे उठें, इतने बजे खाएं। बहुत सारे डेवलपमेंटली डिलेड बच्चे बोल नहीं पाते, तो उनकी समझने की कोशिश करें कि उनकी क्या नीड्स हैं उस वक्त। जस्ट कुछ उनको कॉन्स्टिपेशन हुई है जिसकी वजह से कि वो रो धो रहे हैं, तो उस चीज़ को देखना। फिर उनकी नींद बहुत ज़रूरी है, उसको भी रूटीन और स्ट्रक्चर के साथ फॉलो करना। एक और चीज़, डेवलपमेंट डिलेड बच्चों के लिए बहुत स्टिमुलेशन अच्छी नहीं होती, यानी कि शोर बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाए, टीवी का शोर हो जाए, गानों का शोर हो जाए, इस चीज़ का शोर हो जाए, जो भी है, तो उस चीज़ को लिमिट करना, एनवायरनमेंट को क्लीन रखना, क्वाइट रखना, और एक वन ऑन वन इंटरेक्शन रखना, उनको देख के उनसे बात करना, सिंपल 2 3 4 वर्ड्स में उनके साथ बोलना, ये सब चीज़ें जो कि वो यूज़ कर सकते हैं। जहाँ तक थेरेपी का सवाल है, ये तो देखें जी, यहाँ पे भी इस वक्त एक इशू चल रहा है। ठीक है, वो बच्चे जो स्कूल जाते थे जिसमें कि पेरेंट्स को ब्रेक मिल जाती थी, ठीक है, वो ब्रेक नहीं मिल रही, वो सुबह से रात तक उन बच्चों के साथ डील कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, तो उनका स्ट्रेस फिर बात में ही आ जाती है, पेरेंट्स अपने स्ट्रेस को मैनेज करें। बहुत स्ट्रेस होता है मेरे ख्याल में, मतलब कि वो बच्चे से ज्यादा वो पेरेंट्स का स्ट्रेस होता है जो कि हमें डील करना होता है। उसके अलावा क्योंकि अब बच्चा सारे दिन आपके साथ है, तो अगर आपका जो थेरेपिस्ट है वो थोड़ा सा भी टेक हैवी है, जो आप के बच्चे के साथ काम कर रहा है, तो आप जूम के थ्रू या किसी किस्म के वीडियो प्लेटफॉर्म के थ्रू आप इंटरेक्शन जरूर कराएं। थेरेपी डज इट शुडंट बी द सेम थिंग जो कि वो फिजिकली कर रहे होते हैं, बिकॉज यू नो कभी कभी उनकी थेरेपी में बॉल्स का एक्सचेंज इन्वॉल्व होता है, और वो उन्होंने लिप रीडिंग करनी होती है, जो भी थेरेपी हो रही होती है, वो आप शायद वीडियो प्लेटफॉर्म में अभी नहीं कर पाते, लेकिन वो उनको उस टाइम पे वो दिखाना है बंदा, वो भी बहुत जरूरी है। तो ये बहुत सारी आप स्ट्रेटजीज उनके साथ अपना सकते हैं, बट आई थिंक कि मेरा टेक होम मैसेज ये होगा कि पेरेंट्स अपना ख्याल रखें इस सिचुएशन में, बिकॉज अगर वो अपना ख्याल रख सकते हैं, अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ को ध्यान रखेंगे, तो बच्चे को वो मैनेज कर लेंगे, उनका बच्चा है, और आई थिंक उनसे बेहतर कोई नहीं उनको समझता।
Thank you so much, Dr. Aalamgeer.
You're welcome.